Sunday, November 3rd, it's 5:30. I feel like the only way to start this podcast is how Brian Kelly started his post-game presser after the USC game. And it went something along the lines like this. I can't believe we're here again, talking about the same things that we've been talking about for years. Virginia Tech loses 38-31 at Syracuse. It was devastating. It was gut-wrenching. It is the same movie, I think, that we have seen far too many times. And I'm kind of at a loss for words. And I'm going to do my best to talk about the emotional side of it, the statistical side of it, and the historical side of it when it comes to where we are right now. I'm Billy Ray. This is Pat. We're the Sons of Saturday. We've been doing this for a while. And quite frankly, this is, I feel like I can't believe we're here again saying this, but this is so unfun having these conversations on the heels of games like this. But here we are, following a devastating trip to Syracuse, New York.
It's cover your kids' ears. Bullshit. I'm so sorry. I am so sorry to everyone listening to this. Billy Ray, I'm sorry that we have to spend the next hour plus talking about this football game. This is the fourth loss of the year. And usually the losses, like, the first is the worst, and then they just gradually get less bad. But you can't have a 21-3 lead with 7 minutes left in the third quarter and then just lie down. And we're gonna talk about it. I'm really upset. Billy Ray is really upset.
Is this the worst? Is this the worst one so far this year?
I mean, like, not to be dramatic, but I did think like that 30-day stretch between Vanderbilt and Miami was like the worst 30 days I've ever had as a fan of any team. And so like, I'm not at that point because that was just really tough. But I just can't believe that we lost in this fashion again. I really just want someone to blow us out. Like, please do what Louisville did to us last year instead. Or just don't show up, because we're up 21-3. It's sunshine and rainbows. Now this Schlee guy, like, sleep with one eye open. Like, we're letting the puns fly on Twitter, and it just went haywire. And it's so great. It's so great to get back to playing meaningful November football. We talk about that all the time. Can we take Virginia Tech and ACC football deep into the month of November and be playing games that matter in November? And this year it lasted 48 hours of November after demolishing October after a tough September. So we're going to get into the nitty gritty. But first of all, we are vibes guys. We like to talk about the vibes. We like to talk about what is good, what's fun, how do we spend our weekend watching the game, incorporating and consuming Virginia Tech football. So Billy Ray, can you tell me about your weekend in Charlotte, what you did, and all the good stuff?
Yeah, I mean, we had a great group. We went to Platform in Charlotte. It's a new bar that opened up, very like sports book-esque, kind of like those old ESPN bars. Very cool. Had a table, wall full of televisions. It was almost like sensory overload. The 12 o'clock slate was just great. Headed down there with Mike Russell, Bryce, Dave, Casey, James Yates, who I didn't know he's a Gamecock. I'm sure he's having an awesome morning. And took in the game there. And I just, Mike Russell he had a couple of really awesome observations. Mike Russell was at the Purdue game with us, the rain delay game. And he said it like midway through the third quarter before it fell off the rails. He said, "We never do this to teams. We have a backup quarterback who's playing awesome, who nobody has ever seen before. And our best player is out and their running backs are just holding this happens to us. We don't do this to other people." And it was like, wow, like we have a chance to reverse the curse at Syracuse in a fashion where our best player on offense is out, our quarterback is out, and we're just coming out here and we're taking it to him. It was a very interesting it felt like you were on the other side of what we usually are, at least for 2.5 quarters.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I guess, are you going to ask me about my weekend?
Yeah, no, I was hoping you'd transition into it, but yeah, tell me a little bit about your weekend. If you're not on YouTube, our background's a little different this week. I'm not sure if you guys know that image. I think it's like a soldier in the Vietnam War. You can see it now. Who's just got like that look of just it's how I feel right now. Just shell shock is how it feels right now. But that pretty much encapsulates the feeling right now.
Charleston, South Carolina is where we consume the Hokies this weekend. Great place to visit.
Yeah.
Did a little bit of hauls on Friday night, which rocked. And then Saturday, biked from Mount Pleasant to downtown over the Ravenel Bridge. That was an extremely aggressive decision for an early morning noon kick. We did take the beach cruisers over the bridge and settled down at the Brick. Shout out to Matt Quillen and the guys and gals at the Brick in Charleston.
They're awesome.
I got to tell you guys, I think the Brick Charleston, please let me know if you guys think differently, but I think it is the best Virginia Tech game watching bar. If you've been to the Bubs at the beach in San Diego, which I know
I was going to say,
that was going to be up there, that would have been on the podium. But the Brick in Charleston, downtown, right off King Street, fantastic spot to watch the Hokies. Charleston Alumni Association, they do a great job down there. But
we're 0-2.
Here's my problem. Here's my problem with the Brick. I need to reverse my mojo, my personal game watching mojo. We went down for Bryce's birthday in 2022 and watched Virginia Tech play Old Dominion at the Brick. And that was a challenging first time, at the Brick. It was really tough. So I was a little hesitant. I was like, listen, I know the Brick is going to have the CW to watch the Hokies play. I don't know if any other place is going to want to flip on the CW. But all I wanted was some mojo reversal. It seemed like we were getting that. And then things turned pretty poor. But to speak on the rest of the weekend, did go to Share House for some Orange Crushes, Saltwater Cowboys for dinner, Henry's later that night, elite spot, great place. Pretty tired, came up and got home earlier this morning from Charleston, but a great weekend all in all. The Gilmore.
Can I just say, this was hilarious. So when we were at the sports bar, like, obviously, number one concern is like, do you have our game? Which is kind of crazy to ask as a Power 5 football fan of a Power 5 football game. And they said, you can't make this up. They said, hey, look, like we do have the CW right now. The Gilmore girls are on up until kickoff. So we will put it on when the Gilmore girls are over. So there's that side of it. And then there's the other side of it that the CW does a pretty good job in their production. I actually enjoy watching it. My only gripe is the polos that they wear look like we gotta step it up with some of the gear that we're slapping on these guys and gals. But even we talked about this before we press record, the punt coverage, like they're showing the ball, like the entire trajectory of it going into the sky. Thought that was interesting. They don't really do that. The ref cam, like they got some interesting stuff, but we're doing the best job we can to avoid having to dive into this. But yeah. Russ Mitchell, my dad, did submit our Hokie haiku that we're going to read this week.
And it's a tough weekend when Russ Mitchell is submitting haikus.
I know.
When Russ dials up the poetry, that's when it was a tough Saturday.
His submission: Hokies drift, confused. Guidance absent, spirit wanes. Orange claims the day. Just Langston Hughes cap. Really, really well done. I'm waiting for the day where my pops pulls out a Hokie haiku on a W, but we'll have to wait another week for that. I want to start this by just kind of airing a little bit of a grievance here with college sports. And it's not just like, I don't feel entitled to know who's playing, who's not. And obviously from a gamesmanship perspective, like it makes sense for, the coaching staff not to show that, hey, Bashal Tutin actually isn't going to play. Kyron Drones actually isn't going to play. But the fact that it's 2024, sports gambling is legal. There's so much money at risk at this point. And you can have a team roll out on television and you find out that the top producing offensive player is not playing, came out in pads and then was in street clothes in the second half after not taking a snap. And Kyron Drones is not going to play. I mean, I heard about Kyron Drones not playing. Like the first time I heard of it was like Friday at like 8:30 p.m. And it was like, a couple folks were like, hey, Drones might not play. I was like, what do you mean he might not play? Did he fall down the stairs on the airplane? Was he jumping on the bed before the game? Obviously none of these are true. Something must have happened. But the fact that college sports is such a big market and we're allowed to do this, like the injury report, non-injury report thing to me is crazy. So I just thought that was wild. So don't understand it. Don't get it.
I also think just from it, I guess is the word entitlement, but fans or just the general public, it makes zero sense for college football programs or coaching staffs to leak or publicize any information about injuries throughout the week.
Yeah.
So like Virginia Tech fans who are surprised Drones wasn't playing, would you want a statement put out on Tuesday that Drones is ruled out for Saturday? You had Fran Brown prepping for Kyron Drones all week long. Virginia Tech goes out there and completely blindsides Syracuse. We had a clear advantage in rolling out Colin Schley because Syracuse had done zero game prep for more of a passing quarterback. You watched the presser from the preview last week from Fran Brown. He was clear in the presser that they were going to prepare to stop the run. That's what they were prepping for. So we still ran for 249 yards, but I think just generally speaking, in the grand scheme of college football and media and who deserves to know what, it's all part of the game. There's no reason for injury information to go out prior to kick.
Completely agree with you. I'm just saying that I think college football as a whole, there's a lot of things that need to be fixed on like the reporting and the officiating and everything else. I just think it's bizarre that we don't have some sort of thing like the NFL does because of fantasy and because of gambling, which is why these exist, why they're not having to be rolled out. I do want to say this. I have to tip my cap to Colin Schley, Malachi Thomas, Coney, David Cunningham put this out. So Kyron Drones entered Saturday averaging 181 yards passing per game, while he and Tutin combined to average 229 rushing yards. On Saturday, Colin Schley passed for 206 yards. Schley, Thomas, and Coney combined for 223 rushing yards total. So I will start this by saying hats off to Schley, Thomas, and Coney and Bowen for putting together a game plan to score 31 points. I also want to say there's no way that you should lose this game if the offense scores 31 points. I said the magic number was 30, and it's shocking to me that we lost the game in the facet that we did. So that was kind of my high-level observation on Drones and Tutin being out, because, there are so many different ways this football game could have shook out. And, when those two are missing, you're saying, man, we're going to have trouble putting up points. We didn't. Scored 31 points, right around what our average is. So, do you want to get into the story of the game now?
So we find out this information about we're going to be starting a backup running back, backup quarterback, 3-and-out first drive. Our defense comes ready to play, 3-and-out for Syracuse first drive. And then we get this epic deep bomb from Colin Schley, and we're like, all right.
It's like a punt. Dude, it was the best. It was the best long throw we've seen. It almost, you probably thought, if you were with me, you would have known this is what I said. When that happened, I was like, whoa, that's the Josh Jackson deep pass. You're just throwing it up there, and let somebody run under it, and they did. It was great, and he followed it up with the pass down the sideline to Gosnell. That was fun. I mean, we hadn't seen that in a while. Yeah. It was a Schlee strike.
The Schlee flicker. It's Gosnell 48 yards down to the Syracuse 7-yard line. First down, Hokies. In the next play, Jalen Lane, gadget trick play in the end zone, 7 yards, touchdown, Virginia Tech. The very next drive for Virginia Tech, after, again, another fantastic effort by our defense on the second drive from Syracuse, we see Schlee use his wheels. He hits Felton again. He uses his wheels again. He had a 9-yard run and a 12-yard run on this drive. And then he zips a dart down the right sideline to Stephen Gosnell again, 44 yards down to the 3-yard line. And Schlee's in the end zone 2 plays later for a 1-yard run. So we're up 14-0. This is great. Twitter is fun. We're on the road. Are we zapping? I can't believe we're talking about this, honestly. Like, I can't believe this happened, but I can, because we can't put freaking opponents away. Syracuse goes, kicks a field goal.
Well, hold on. You got to point this out, because I saw this quote after the game, and I loved this from Fran Brown. So Fran Brown had a huddle after the first quarter. He was talking about this in his post game. And he basically told his team, he said, hey, if you guys want to quit, that's cool. Like, if you want to quit, you want to wave the white flag, totally okay. I'll just put the freshman in. Is that what you want me to do? Because that's what it very much looked like. And if I'm being completely transparent, when I'm watching this first half, I got the Penn State game on. I got there are a ton of great games on television. Ole Miss is pounding Arkansas. There's football. There's a huge screen of football. And I'm kind of okay, handled business. Clemson, see you in a week. Like, looking forward to it. Going to be great. And to Syracuse's credit, they did not quit. They did not wave the flag. Would have been very easy to be like, man, it's just like Pittsburgh coming out. They're rolling us at home. And they came back and punched us in the mouth in the second half.
Yeah. So we go up. We're up 14-3. The last drive of the first half has some questionable penalties. Phantom block in the back on an Aiden Green end around.
Yeah, we'll talk about
it. Puts us in the field goal range. We have the Colin Schlee knee being down, which totally changed a lot, in that half as well.
Yep.
Could have gotten points from there. And then if you want to talk about the runoff, the timeout, the closure of the half, or do you want to talk about that later?
No, we'll talk about it later. Just to go over kind of everything else. Syracuse ends up scoring 28 points is that 28? 13 plus 15? That's 28, right? Yeah, 28 points in the third and fourth quarter. Going to overtime. I mean, it's kind of hard to tell this story without going into some of the clock management stuff, which we're going to do here, because that was obviously a huge point of contention from halftime forward. So let's get into the offense. We'll talk about the clock management and then flip over to the defense. So the nitty gritty for the offense, I'll give you the splits here. We ran the ball 48 times for 249 yards. We passed 16 times for 206, finished with 455, 2 turnovers, 9 penalties for 79 yards. And again, Colin Schlee, like, I can't say enough positive things. It very much felt like if you took the way that Colin Schlee was playing, it kind of looked like the way Kyron Drones played on that last drive against Purdue. Like, he was throwing the ball very well. And the way that he ran the football was super aggressive. Like, as soon as he saw a hole, he was hitting the hole and he was finding somebody who was trying to run through their face. Very inspired football. Loved watching it. Finished with 19 carries for 54 yards and a touchdown. He was 16 of 24 for 206 and a touchdown. Again, the sleep with one eye open thing got me fired up. I love that. The multiple deep balls down the sideline. It was fun to watch, man. Schlee played as well as you could have possibly asked him to play in a hostile environment, having really not taken a whole lot of snaps. And most of the snaps that he did take were as like a slot or a motion receiver or something else. So I really would be curious to know how much actual reps he got leading into this football game. Because I don't know when we knew about the availability of Kyron Drones or the non-availability of Kyron Drones.
Yeah, I think they said in the presser that they knew that they might have to put Schlee out there like earlier in the week, and I think Schlee was practicing with the ones a good bit of the week. Other notes about the offense. Guy like Colin Schlee. I mean, he played very well. You know, if we win that football game, is Colin Schlee starting against Clemson next weekend? Like, I guess we'll kind of find out. You know, because I do think he has some upside to him as well. And, you know, not sure what the status is on Drones right now, but I think he has a nice zip on the ball. Understand why he was used on gadget plays throughout the year. You know, other than the Vanderbilt game, he hasn't really had the ball in his hands that much. But, you know, when he would roll out to his left and hit Benji, it was like a first down special. It's just like a, you know, simple roll out left, hit Benji Gosnell. Benji goes for 12 yards like every single time. So really proud of his efforts, and just a bummer that we didn't get it done. Did think it was interesting. We saw a bit of Pop Watson. Took one snap, handed it to Malachi, and in for 6. You know, I think Colin Schlee did take some hits throughout the game. You know, late in the fourth quarter, it looks like he's hit his head and then I think ankle maybe in overtime. So we'll see what happens throughout practice this week. I'm sure Pry will have some notes on him on the presser for Clemson. Really got to tip your cap to Malachi Thomas today. Was falling forward all day. We kind of saw the Malachi Thomas of old, like that healthy Malachi Thomas who could break a tackle, who will always keep churning his legs. Had a good amount of big runs throughout the day. 73 yards total and 1 touchdown for Malachi. And then Jeremiah Coney, he had that big run at the end of the half. Really, really tough fumble in the third quarter, which led to points for Syracuse. But I think generally speaking, like the by committee approach, Colin Schlee, Malachi Thomas, Jeremiah Coney, the fact that they went together for 249 yards. If you would have told me we ran for 250 at Syracuse, I would have said, yeah, we probably won the football game.
A couple other notes that I just want to point out. We put the ball on the ground a ton. We had 4 fumbles. We lost 2 of them. And this is like picking nits, but it just seems like this happens a lot this season. Starting field position on the first drive is on the 11-yard line. Our kick return team has whatever the opposite of like a difference maker is what our kick return team has been this season. No, kick return. Okay. Our kick return unit has been the opposite of a difference maker. It seems like anytime that we take a kickoff out, we're getting the ball at behind the 25 or the 20-yard line. So that was kind of the first thing. It's amazing. Like in Virginia Tech games this season, it seems like within the first 5 minutes of the game, you're like, what the hell was that? Against Georgia Tech, it was a fumbled sack on like the first drive that we have. This week, it's starting with the ball on the 11-yard line. Like, seems like there's something that kind of rears its head at the beginning of the game. But you know, that's the offense. Came out, punched him in the face, had trouble getting something going in the second half. I want to take a second before we go over to the defense, just to talk about like clock management, WTF stuff that happened in this football game. And I'm going to go in chronological order here. And I think the first one to me was the most egregious. So Mansour Delane forces a fumble and we get the ball at hour 18 with 1 minute and 3 seconds left. And this is the recap from David Cunningham. So Coney gets an 8-yard rush to the VT26 and the clock continues to run. Then Coney has a 25-yard rush to the Syracuse 49. We take a timeout with 18 seconds left. Colin Schlee has an 18-yard game to the 31-yard line of Syracuse, and we take a timeout with 12 seconds. Now, the officials review and say Schlee's knee was down at the 46-yard line with 17 seconds left and force a 10-second runoff. I have no idea how that's the situation. I don't understand if they offered us to take a timeout, like what led to that situation. And, you know, We have 7 seconds left. Coney is a 47-yard rush to the Syracuse 7, the end of half. So I'm not blaming this loss on officiating. It just seems like in every one of our losses, there is some crazy officiating thing that screws us over. At Vanderbilt, it was the fumble forward situation. At Rutgers, it was the fumble backward situation. Against Miami, you have the Miami situation. Like, we have ended up on the bad side of weird officiating, like one-offs that happen to us over and over and over again. And the one thing that I really wish that I could see, and the only time that we've really seen it is after the Miami game, for lack of better terms, I just like to see us like freak out. Like when something like this happens, when you are constantly hit with these game, season, drive changing screw ups, it's kind of like, we'll take it in motion. And you're kind of like, wait, no, like what just happened? Like what exactly just happened? I'm not encouraging like throwing stuff onto the field, but Texas basically was like, we didn't like that call, so we're just going to throw stuff on the field and make you think about it. It just seems like we constantly get railroaded by officiating. We're just like, oh, ho hum. Well, got to fight back and fight against it. So that drives me nuts.
I guess it's like, all right, well, let's be definitive and not give the refs an opportunity to alter the football game. And unfortunately, we are putting ourselves in that position time in and time out, whether it's on the road, whether it's in a close game. There's leave no doubt. There's none of that. Yeah. And it's awful.
The last one is one that we're split on. And it's the last drive in regulation. So Virginia Tech received the ball with at the 25-yard line with 29 seconds left, and and Syracuse has 2 timeouts. So the way that I believe that this is typically taken is your first play that you run dictates what you're going to do. If you get a nice chunk yardage, you can start to attack and say, okay, we've moved the ball on first down. Syracuse will either have to take their timeout or we can manage the clock and just keep the ball moving. On the first play that we ran with 29 seconds left, there were 3 Syracuse players in our backfield. They force a TFL, and we basically say, you know what? Let's take this thing to overtime. I don't have a huge issue with that. The reason being is if you throw it on first down, Syracuse then has the timeouts to get to a point where we have to punt. But again, like, I guess the overall point is when you look at these clock situations being one, I hate throwing the stat out, but it is the stat. Being 1-12 in single score football games is quite honestly really difficult to do. It's not like a bounce here or a bounce there. Like the bounce has gone against us essentially every single time. And I'm saving like my big conversation for this towards the end, but we're in year 3 and learning how to win this type of game has not happened yet. It has not clicked to this point. And it's great to say, hey, when we win in the ACC, we win by a lot of points, like we blow teams out, but our inability to close in these games where winning time happens in the fourth quarter with 4 minutes or so left, it becomes debilitating. And that is why we kind of all feel that way. And it's got to be hard as a player. Think about how hard it is as a fan when you're in close games like this. And it's kind of like, I compare it to like an NBA game where it's like you got like 4 minutes left and you're a team that doesn't close very well. And you kind of like, you can hear the stadium audibly like groan, right? That's how it feels. Yeah, you're just like, oh, right? I know we played this game on the road, but I'm thinking about from a player's perspective and a coaching perspective, they all know that it hasn't gone our way in situations like this. And it's like you're rewinding the video and you're playing it again against a different opponent in a different building, and it's the same result in these close football games. And it just becomes exhausting. And that's where we are.
And there's 29 seconds left. You have the ball at the 25-yard line. You have 3 timeouts. If we're talking about the drive summary, the last 4 drives from Syracuse were touchdown, punt, touchdown, touchdown. They've scored 28 points on Virginia Tech in the second half. Kyle McCord and LaQuint Allen are moving the ball at will on this defense that is gassed. The Defense has been on the field most of the second half. And all we need is 30, 35 yards with 29 seconds to go. And we have one of the best kickers in the ACC. Maybe
inside.
Inside. No wind, no hail, no snow. Got to give your guys an opportunity to win the football game. And I cannot side with playing for overtime there, where we have scored. They had all the momentum. First of all, I think at any point, if you are playing in overtime on the road, you're automatically at a disadvantage. But we win the toss and we defer and put our tired defense back on the field.
That was crazy.
And the first play, they line up. The CW did not know how to cover overtime. First of all, did you guys see that? How they were in the middle of the play. The guy was already 6 yards past the line of scrimmage when the TV cut to the live action.
They had the Gilmore Girls, dude.
They run this crazy formation, and all of a sudden, every single Virginia Tech fan knows that we are not going to win this football game. You got Colin Schley, who is banged up. I just don't like the odds of us winning that game in overtime when we have not been able to stop them at all in the second half. And all we need is 30, 35 yards with an awesome kicker. If it's by the book to run the ball on first down, and that's the only decision that you're going to make, I don't know. Do you have to follow that every single time?
We're gonna disagree on that, on this specific item. The one thing that I think is undisagreeable, though, is trotting the defense back out there immediately at the start of overtime. Like I did not. You can make the argument that maybe Schley was banged up or whatever, but the defense had been literally running basically suicides up and down the field for the entire second half. I couldn't get my hands on the second half like stat book, but I'd be pretty interested to see how much time our defense spent on the field in the second half. But yeah, I wonder also if you felt comfortable lining up for a long field goal, because we've had long field goals blocked lately. But again, it's crazy that we're in the
play to win the game. Play to win the football game is really the bottom line here. You got 29 seconds. Play to win the football game, or don't put in your don't. I guess like if we're gonna go to overtime there, who is feeling confident about us winning the football game? Rather than, hey, we are fired up because we have John Love on our team. John Love comes over to Colin Schley. Hey, dude, just get me to the 45, or no, get me to the 50. Let's just try to win the football game.
All right. I am saying, if on that first down, it doesn't make me feel great that we have three guys in the backfield. You can go either way. I do think, though, there's something to be said about whether it's this specific drive or some of the other drives that we've seen going into halftime. Like we've seen here's the point. We've seen more aggressive play calling before the half with less time in a less fortuitous field position situation. Can't remember Boston College.
It was masterclass.
We saw it at Rutgers. We saw it at Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt, we had the ball on like our 18-yard line with like 12 seconds left, and we're running like 4 verticals before halftime. It's like, dude, just go into halftime. Get us out of this football game, or get us out of this football half. So again, it was wild because I had kind of just accepted we won the football game, and here we are like playing for our lives in the dome after being up 21-3. It's a tough a tough situation. The defense is probably where we're gonna go ahead.
What do you do if there's more than 29 seconds on the clock there? Had one of our timeouts been burned right before Syracuse scored their last touchdown of regulation, and you have 48 seconds rather than 29 seconds, what do you do?
I mean, to be completely honest, you're probably playing it similar because you don't want to put Syracuse in a position where they have timeouts and can just dink and dunk it down the football field. Like Virginia Tech's inability to move the ball on offense and all of the momentum being with Syracuse, the last thing that you need is a sack fumble, a 3-and-out, and then Syracuse is taking the ball with Kyle McCord after scoring on 3 of their 4 previous drives. there's not really like a clear cut. We should definitely do this. But yeah,
I just have a hard time thinking that, oh yeah, we're gonna be able to beat this team in overtime.
Like, oh, for sure. Yeah, I wasn't.
I have a really hard.
Don't get me wrong. Yeah, I wasn't fired up to go in overtime. And the point, I think, is opting for your defense to trot back out on the field at the beginning when you win the coin toss was crazy to me. So you're flipping it over to the defense here. Do you want to talk about the game-winning drive or the drive that got us to overtime?
Yeah, I think this was kind of just a summary of the second half in general. Kyle McCord, after Syracuse goes down 31-24. We think John Love, like, is this icing the game? He's got just over 5 minutes left. McCord leads a 14-play, 75-yard drive to tie it up. LaQuinn Allen scores the winning touchdown, 4 minutes and 47 seconds off the clock. So McCord gets the ball with 5:16 left. And it's just classic Hokies. He takes the ball, 14 plays, winds it all the way down to 29 seconds left. It was just so classic. But that was a summary of our defense in the second half. We couldn't stop the run in the second half of the football game. It was mind-blowing how we kept them in check so well in the first half, albeit they did make some offensive mistakes and had some turnovers. But the adjustments made by Fran Brown and his offensive staff clearly outclassed Virginia Tech in the second half and into overtime too.
You know, it is so classic Virginia Tech, and I know that drive didn't directly result in the game being over. It extended the game for Syracuse, but
because we were like, they're definitely going to go for 2 here and win the football game in regulation.
100% was kind of how I thought about it, especially following the blocked PAT. I mean, it was pandemonium. But you think about these last couple of years, like you had the Notre Dame game at Notre Dame and at home. You had the Belk Bowl game against Kentucky. And it's just like these legacy drives of like, you know, you and I grew up watching Eli Manning. And it's just like anytime Eli Manning throws 4 picks, he comes on the field with 1:30 left. He's going to drive down the field. He's going to find a way to win the game. And it just happens to us incessantly over and over and over again. And this was exactly what we saw again. And look, was Kyle McCord great? No, he was really good when he needed to be really good and was efficient and found a way to win the football game. The one positive stat I do want to share is that, including Saturday, Virginia Tech had not allowed a touchdown in the first half of their last 4 games. The last time that Virginia Tech did that was in 2006, where they held Miami and Kent State scoreless, and Wake Forest and I don't know what the names are. It's worded oddly, but Damian Salas did put that out. And that's what's so perplexing about this entire situation. You look at our defense holistically, and it's like, okay, like really solid red zone defense. We had the Mansour Delane forced fumble, which was awesome. But what I keep coming back to is like, we have a really difficult time adjusting on the fly against some of these teams. We saw it against Boston College when they got all of that momentum. Now, granted, we kept handing them the football, but had a lot of trouble adjusting there. We were never able to adjust against Miami. And the second half was just so sloppy. You look at the drive chart for the scores that Syracuse had. Here were their touchdowns in the second half. 4 plays, 75 yards. Mansour made a play on the ball, missed it, and then the guy goes not untouched, but basically runs all the way to the end zone. Then he had a 6-play, 56-yard drive. Little white dude, looked like CJ Carroll, had a screen, took a convoy all the way down to near the end zone. And then you had a 4-play, 39-yard drive. It was an awful angle by the safety, and the safety ended up blocking D-Lane, and then he runs to the end zone. And then you had that legacy drive from Kyle McCord, 14 plays, 75 yards. Just a really difficult watch.
We were just pushed off the ball all second half. And
oh, yeah.
You know, I'll lay down the Shaquille O'Neal meme. I owe you an apology. I wasn't familiar with your game, and that's LaQuint Allen. And
we didn't even talk about him.
We gave him a dandelion. We didn't even give him flowers on the preview pod. We gave him one dandelion. We're like, hey, I know Syracuse passes the ball 80% of the time. They're not going to run the ball that much. This guy's not that much of a threat. And he proved me wrong, and he proved our defense wrong. He proved all of us wrong. He had 21 carries, 121 yards, 3 scores, had the game-winning score, and also was effective in the receiving game, 5 catches, 37 yards. So congratulations to him. He played a phenomenal football game, but really just so brutal to see us just totally lie down and fold in the second half like this.
Another statistic that was really disappointing from our defense was we only got 1 sack.
Yep.
That sack came from Antoine Powell-Ryland, and we forced two total TFLs in this football game. And this comes after, great performances from Penne, great performances from APR, great performances by Peoples. And I know this is a stat that we hate, but it's the stat. If you look at our leading tacklers, we got Keontae Jenkins with 10, Jaden Keller with 9, Mansour Delane with 6, Mose Phillips with 6, Dorian Strong with 4. A lot of second level, third level tackling needed to take place, and just a lot of poor tackling high. And this isn't really something like tackling hasn't been something that we've talked about this season as being an issue. And it just reared its ugly head in the second half of this football game. Like I can't remember, Pat, a game where we were like tackling was an issue here. And it totally was. It turned like 6 or 7 yard receptions into 45-yard catches or 50+ yard catches, like over and over and over and over again.
A lot of big plays. If you had told me that Syracuse would only have 3 points at halftime, if Kyle McCord would have his season low in yards, he had 280 yards. It's the first time all year he's gone for less than 321 yards.
It's the first time he went under 290 yards. I think it was the last time he went under 280 yards this season.
Yeah, no, I mean, yeah. His lowest of the year was 321. If you told me that Syracuse would have 11 penalties for 96 yards and only rush for 130 yards, it's not even like they ran the ball well with LaQuint Allen, but it was just him. It's not like he was putting up Bashal Tutin versus Boston College stats. And it's just inexcusable how, time of possession, 34-25, dominated time of possession.
Chalk on the turnovers. It wasn't like a huge turnover differential. We out-yarded them. We almost doubled them up on rushing. It was 130 to 249. And even on third down, like the third down efficiency was pretty similar. 5 of 11 for Tech, 7 of 14 for Syracuse. Again, it just came down to a complete failure on defense in the second half. And Syracuse comes back, completely punches us in the face. And
it's a bummer. It's a bummer because our offense has come to play. They've scored points late in games, or at least in the fourth quarter. Vanderbilt, we go up 7 points in the fourth quarter, and then we immediately give up a touchdown that next drive to force overtime. Rutgers, we tie up the football game, and within one play, they take it the whole length of the field and score the game-winning field goal a few plays later, leading to another loss. Miami game, we're up 10 freaking points in the fourth quarter, and then we have this tackling debacle where we have Cam Ward down for a sack, and he does his Heisman moment thing. But, I mean, the guy should have been tackled in the backfield. And then Syracuse, I mean, we're up 7 points in the fourth quarter, and then we give up a 14-play, 75-yard drive, and we get the ball back and decide that we're going to trust our defense to keep it together in overtime. The first play in overtime, is a chunk play for them. That's curtains. And that's it. And that's how it's been. That's an indictment on our defense and our staff. And, we saw the same thing up at NC State in 2021. We had a 21-3 lead, and we couldn't keep it together.
22. Yeah.
2022. It's like every single tight game that we've lost, our defense has just given up and thrown in the towel in the third or fourth quarter.
Special teams. You want to talk about special teams real quick? Peter Moore played great, as he always does. He had 2 inside the 20. He only punted 5 times.
APR blocked a field goal.
Thought they were going to house it.
Yeah. Tough. All I got to say, poor John getting no love. First of all, when he kicked that field goal and we were within, put us ahead 7 instead of 4, like felt good there, but really like wish we could have scored a touchdown on that drive. It looked like we were going to punch it in and go up 10 instead of 7. I guess 11 instead of 7. And then just no love for love in a dome where he could have, said, hey guys, I'm actually just going to hit it from 70. Like, I haven't seen John Love miss a field goal this year. Okay. And neither have you. He's been blocked twice. Understand that. I'm sure they're tightening that up, but you got to give your guy a chance. He's probably an all ACC caliber specialist. Got to give him a chance to win the football game.
In all, I think this is kind of the meat and the potatoes of this podcast. Everything that we're about to talk about are, I'm not going to say everything, but mainly what we're going to talk about here are strictly things that are coming from a stat book and are undeniably true. So the question that I want to ask is, how are we going to learn how to win these games? And I'm going to call into question some of these games, starting with the games that we've won, right? Some of the games you can hang your hat on. And if you look at 2022, you say, okay, we played up to our competition. We played a bunch of teams that were more talented than us. And, we lost close for some good teams. Pittsburgh, 45-29, a little misleading. Game was closer than it looks like. Miami, 20-14 at home. NC State 22-21 on the road. Like, those are losses that you're like, okay, this team just needs to learn how to win. So let's talk about the games that we actually did win, right? Because my thing is, I need to see us punch up. Like, we need to show up and beat a team who is on the same level than us or better. And we have not done that to this point. That is why at the end of this podcast preview that we had coming last week, I was like, this is a huge game for Tech. Syracuse is a solid football team. They're well coached. They have a good quarterback. There's no quarterback injuries. There's no serious injuries for Syracuse. Like, this is an opportunity to go on the road and beat a team that is on par or better than you, right? So let's look at some of the games that we've won over these last 3 years. In 2022, we beat Boston College. They finished 3-9. Wofford, 3-8. Liberty, 8-5. They lost the Boca Raton Bowl to Toledo, and we almost fumbled that game away. That is the one score football game that we have won in the last 3 years. We're 1-12 in these situations. I think it might be 1-13.
And is that the only game that we won as an underdog?
I believe it is our only win as an underdog. I'm not sure what the line was for Pittsburgh last year, but that was a game that we were underdogs in. Then you go to 2023. ODU, the team that we beat, 6-7. Pittsburgh, 3-9. Wake, 4-8. Syracuse, 6-7. Boston College, 7-6. UVA, 3-9. And then we beat Tulane's JV team, who was 11-3 in the bowl game with a backup quarterback. In 2024, the year that we're in right now, Marshall, who we beat, is now 5-4. They had a backup quarterback. ODU is 4-5. Stanford is 2-7 with a backup quarterback. Boston College is 4-4, and Georgia Tech is 5-4 with a backup quarterback. This list of the games that we have won in these 3 years have a combined record of 74 wins and 95 losses. On this list, there are 5 teams with above a 500 record. Those teams are the 2022 Liberty Flames, 2022 Boston College and Tulane. Sorry, that's 2023. And then 2024 Marshall and Georgia Tech. This team, this staff, this program has to at some point play up and beat a team that is as good as us or better than us. We have not done that yet. We do so many things well. We handle the PR well. We've mended relationships in high schools. We've done all of this like extracurricular stuff, which is great. And like, I'm happy that that's happening. But at the end of the day, you have to start beating teams that are going to be on the same level as you or better. And we have just beat up, if you look at this list, we have beat up on a bunch of teams that we are superior than. And I know we're not talking about Clemson. There's a lot more to talk about on this game, but that is why this upcoming game is so important and why this game was so important, because the teams that we have had on our schedule have been inferior to us or have had an injury that has been a serious problem. I mean, we played down to Georgia Tech a week ago when they're playing their second string and third string quarterback. At some point, you have to reach up and beat somebody better than you. And we have not done that in 3 years. And the question still remains, when will this team learn how to win games at the end of regulation? We have not been able to punch through and do that.
No,
that's a tough read, man. That is not conjecture. That is not like touchy. Those are the games, and it's tough.
Brent Pry on all 4 losses being by 1 score this season. He said, that's kind of where we are. I've got to do better. We've got to play better. The really good teams get over the hump, learn how to win these close games. We've got to do a better job there. Brent Pry's staff is 1-11 in 1-score games. That's 0-4 in 2024. Statistics that make me want to crawl into a hole. They make me not want to record this podcast. They make me not want to be a fan of this program. And, we got to be better. I've got to be better. We got to get over this hump. Like, what is this hump, and what is it going to take to get over this hump? How long is the leash on some of the folks on the staff? Where are we going to see that? Because it's not going to happen in 2024. 2024 is over. I'm just so tired we have 3 games left. We got we have Clemson next week, and then we have the week off, and then we go to Duke, and we have UVA at home. It could be 6-6. It could be 7-5. I think the odds are low for us to finish 8-4. Would I be proud of the effort for the rest of the year if we finish 8-4? Yes. But at the end of the day, I'm wearing black because I'm mourning the Virginia Tech football season, because we are not playing for anything of significance anymore. And if you want to tell me that making a bowl game and beating our rival are 2 things that we should be proud of, that is table stakes for Virginia Tech. That is not something that is just like, oh, we did this, we should celebrate it. That is the bare minimum for what this team should be accomplishing. And unfortunately, we've been put in a position by our coaching staff that has 4 losses in close games this year. And it gives me no pleasure to have to do this again. And it is unbelievable. And there's really no words right now. And the whole where do we go from here thing, again, I don't know if we can, I'm not ready to have that conversation yet, because it's just, I feel like I'm being dramatic here, but this is crazy that we've lost these 4 games this way. And we need to see some wholesale changes at the end of the year, whether it's, some staff members, are evaluated, and we go into the portal and we need to attack the portal and fill in some gaps. But I feel like this roster is so much better than being 5-4 at this point of the season. I really do.
I completely agree with you. And again, I always hate the exercise of, okay, how many games do we have to win this year for it to be a success versus a failure? What I do know is this team is better than losing in the fashion that we lost to some of these teams. The same team that went to Miami Gardens and gave Miami as good of a game as that you possibly can. Competed with Miami as well as anyone could, is the same team that was winning by 3 against Marshall at home at halftime, is the same team that got punched in the face by Vanderbilt and Rutgers from Jump Street in basically a home game at a neutral field and a home game at a whiteout in Lane Stadium. What I know is we are more talented than the results that we have seen in some of these football games. And it, again, it's kind of like you're continuing to watch the same movie over and over and over and over again. And again, like at a certain standpoint, you talk about, well, if the ball bounces this way this time, it goes different. If the ball bounces this way this time, then the game's different. The ball seems to always bounce the wrong way. Like it just it can't keep bouncing the wrong way.
The ball doesn't just coincidentally bounce the other way 11 out of 12 times. Like that's not, if you look at the data, oh man, the way that they have lost these football games has been so taxing on this fan base. And I saw Will Hewlett, I think Will Hewlett put it out, said, hey, Virginia Tech's fan base, Lane Stadium, and Enter Sandman are really the glue that are keeping this thing together.
Mm-hmm.
You look at Florida State. Florida State is what, 1-7, 1-8. I've lost track of how many losses they have.
Blown out by North Carolina.
It is one of the saddest things I've ever seen. Some videos of Doak Campbell Stadium on Saturday. There is no one there. You got drunk fans screaming at the team and the coaches. It's like a war zone came through Doak Campbell and just took out their entire fan base. And I don't know like what this fan base would do. And I don't know if we'll ever lose the fan base because we've been in some pretty deep ditches. I'm not going to say we're at the 1-8 Florida State ditch, but we really need to see better out of this coaching staff.
Well, Pat, I'm really glad there are two things I want to talk about what you just said. Number one, and I believe I said this after West Virginia in 2022. This has to be more than like a good time with friends that is an entrance, and then like maybe hopefully we'll win. Like they continuously show up, and every podcast in the space says this. Every writer says this. Every big brand person, like anytime we talk to like a national like reporter or somebody on X publication that is not like Virginia Tech Homer, they say the same thing, and they've been saying it for 10 years. They say, man, you guys just have such a good fan base, and I really want you guys to have something. And the thing that we have right now, again, it's not conjecture, it's not being dramatic. What we have right now and what we've had is an entrance and people telling us how awesome the stadium is. And again, since we're just airing it all out right now, here we are potentially fighting for a bowl game spot. By the way, newsflash, we are rebuilding our women's basketball program. We are rebuilding our men's basketball program. And it felt like this year we pushed a bunch of chips into the center of the table for football this season. And the ACC championship road to potentially competing for that, barring something crazy is not happening. And it is a really difficult pill to swallow.
Throw in the college football playoff expanding to 12 teams. This was the year. If you're going to do it, this is the year. You want that momentum going into recruiting and going into the portal after this year that we can ride. But instead, we have a coaching staff that is 0-4 in one-score games. It's a tough sell going into someone's living room and saying, hey, we want you to come here. You're not going to win, though. You're not going to win the games that matter. I mean, Billy just gave us the full report on the teams we've beaten. We haven't beaten anyone good one time in 3 years. This team is 6-10 when going on the road since 2022. This was it. This was the one-signing moment with NIL, pushing all the resources in NIL to football for this year. Conference realignment. You want to go out there and be a big boy program so we don't get left behind. This is the year, 2024. The portal, the playoff, actually being able to potentially have a seat at the table and make the playoff with the 12-team playoff. Instead, we're competing for a bowl game, and no one is going to care about bowl games anymore with the 12-team playoff. which sucks, but that's the reality.
Yep.
And unfortunately, it's going to be even worse than it was last year when we played Tulane's JV team. We're going to have a JV team ourselves, I would imagine, because you're going to see more opt-outs than ever before with how bowl season is going to look this year with the 12-team playoff. So this was it. This was the opportunity.
Yeah. It's, if I'm looking at the rest of the season to answer the where do we go from here, like, I'm not expecting to beat Clemson. I'm really would be shocked to be in a close game versus Clemson. But Virginia Tech desperately needs something to hang their hat on okay, I feel good about this moving forward. We've basically been in win every single game mode since September because we dug ourselves in that hole in September. And here's the loss. Came to a team that we probably didn't anticipate. But that's where we are. So do you want to read just some of the post-game thoughts and what people are saying? Just I know we elevated a couple up that were reasonably appropriate, but people are upset.
Robbie Emerson, how does Tech keep the players motivated from here on out? After saying not making the ACC championship would be a disappointment, I can't imagine the motivation to just make a bowl game is going to do it.
It's going to be interesting to see. It's going to be interesting to see how you cut. It's going to be interesting to see how you come out because, scheduling gods. Thank goodness we don't play Duke or UVA this next week. You can at least get motivated that you're playing one of the best teams in college football and in the ACC, who just got blown out by Louisville at home. So hope you're able to get up for that game. And that transitions next into my next point, which is going to be a difficult one for Virginia Tech fans to hear. We looked at the letters from the lunch pail. It was just a complete massacre. And some of these questions, there's just no positive in answering these questions. So I actually have a lunch pail question for Virginia Tech fans. And honestly, my question is, why the bleep do you guys, myself included, feel so entitled that College Game Day should come to Virginia Tech to cover a game for a team that has not really done anything deserving of that spot in almost a decade? Like, the idea that College Game Day is going to say, hey, like, this was the sell to College Game Day. Hey, Virginia Tech, I know we haven't done a whole lot in the last 10 years, but Clemson is coming to town and Clemson's done a whole lot. So why don't you guys come on down here and highlight our awesome environment? ESPN, Bleacher Report, Barstool, ACC Network, literally polish Lane Stadium's nuts enough. Like there is no reason for College Game Day to feel like they need to come to Virginia Tech when there are the plethora of these other games. Like, you want College Game Day back in Blacksburg? We got to start winning some of these games. And until we do that, I don't want a charity case of College Game Day to come down to Virginia Tech just because they're playing a good team. Hey, Virginia Tech's playing a good team. We should go down there for Enter Sandman. It'd be pretty cool. No, you have to earn the right for that production to take place in our town. And for the last X amount of years, there has been no reason for them to make that trip since 2017. There has been no reason.
Now, does it suck that we knew even before the Syracuse game that game day was going to Bama LSU? Yes, because they usually announce that during the ABC 8 p.m. Saturday night game. And we would have liked to, kind of be on edge about that. However, Virginia Tech, you had your opportunity. You lost to Vanderbilt, and then you lost to Rutgers, then you lost to Miami. So that's kind of the reality. And unfortunately, we're not there. We're not there. None of the national media are talking about how this team has lost 4 games by, a combined, what is it, 20 points? Because we're not there. We are no longer at the table. We have to earn our seat at the table to be talked about in the national landscape of college football. You're not getting Kirk Herbstreit, getting that reaction on the private jet anymore about Virginia Tech and what happened, because that was a decade ago. And this is kind of it right now. This is how we have been. This was, again, I hate sounding like a broken record. 2024 was the year to figure this thing out, and we have failed. And that's why we don't deserve College Game Day. As much as every Hokie fan wearing the orange and maroon glasses, myself included, we're not there and we don't deserve it.
Tough pill to swallow. Tough reality that we're existing in right now. And I'll, Pat, I'll speak for both of us here. Like, we're both going to be at the Clemson game. We're both going to be loud. We're both but we've had this message and this mantra on this show for years now, and we're going to show up. It's just, there's so much more left to be deserved for what is constantly trotted out and constantly supported. And that's why it hurts so much. That's all I got.
It's so draining. And we've been doing this podcast. This is our sixth season of the podcast. And this is by far the most draining season we've ever had.
Have you ever had a season this difficult as a fan?
Absolutely not. No. Like, I know 2019 we lost to Duke and we lost to UVA, but we got blown out by Duke, and UVA they were the better football team that day.
Mm-hmm.
But just
there it is. I knew you'd come around. I knew it.
I don't think, as far as from an expectation standpoint, we've had a worse season than 2024 as far as not aligning with the expectations. I know 2009 is up there because we had a 2-week stretch of bad football. I know 2006 is up there because we had to go from Marcus Vick. And we, no one thought we would have Sean Glennon starting that year, and we had a bad 2-week stretch in 2006.
2022, we knew it was going to be difficult.
I think 2020 might be up there just because of how much talent was on that roster, but COVID-19 did COVID-19.
Mickey Mouse year, dude. Mickey
Mouse year all around. I think 2024 is really, really taking the cake for being one of the toughest years in my fanhood, if not the toughest. Again, I hate to come on here and just be all brutal to listen to. It's just really a tremendous challenge, but we will be there on Saturday, and we will be there on Friday night too at Bull and Bones, and we're going to have as good of a time as we can have, and hopefully we win the football game. Do you have any Sharky shout-outs, Billy Ray?
Shout out Bill Roth. It's his birthday. Bill Roth rocks.
Bill's alma mater got the victory yesterday.
They did. Shout out to Bill Roth and Geo Heater. Big win for the alma mater. I say that in jest.
I wonder what Gio's going to say on the pod.
I got to tell you, I'm pretty excited to listen to the Virginia Tech podcast ringer this week. I will be tuned into every show.
Don V, we need you back, man.
He's been on a hiatus.
My dad calls me up. He's like, dude, I need Don V back.
We might need a Don V YouTube video because it's been a long time from a Don V YouTube video, but it is a crazy next 3 weeks, man. I mean, you got the Clemson game. Let's just kind of run through this really quickly, Patrick. Like, I am nervous. I don't expect to be Clemson. Then you're going to play Duke, who scored a ton of points against Miami on the road. We will be celebrating your birthday. Like, there is a very real chance that this is like the 2014, 2015, 2018 situation where the trip to Charlottesville or the game against Virginia is not for an opportunity to go to the ACC championship. It is for the opportunity to play in the Boca Raton Bowl or the, the Charmin Soft Bowl.
The Quicken Loans Bowl. We got to go to Detroit.
So the Fenway Bowl, fire me up, dude. I'll be there with bells on. But that's more because I want some clam chowder than another game of Tech football. But
Fenway Bowl would be fun. Kind of rooting for it right
now. So yeah, it's tough. Doing these are tough. And to wrap my point up, I don't envy any of you Virginia Tech podcasters, but I guess I do because I just went through the exercise that you all will go through this week. So tough. Basketball starts on Monday and Tuesday. Excited to watch.
I hated this. I'm sorry, Billy Ray.
Yeah, it was tough.
We have a sizable tab open on Friday night at Bull and Bones. However, you have to be a Section 5 club member. So, if you want to join the Section 5 club and support Sons of Saturday through unique opportunities with Virginia Tech, check it out on our website, Section 5 Club. It's just $5.55 a month to join. So, if you have like 3 drinks at Bull and Bones on us, you're like getting paid to drink for free.
Yeah, you're welcome.
But we also are doing some giveaways. We're giving away tickets. We've given away a lot of Rowback. We're actually, I got like this box of vintage Hokie stuff that I might bring to the Section 5 Club event. And when I say might, I actually will bring it. That I kind of just, if you are a parent of a Hokie student, you know how college kids love the vintage stuff. They're like, hey, listen, like check out this 2011, Virginia Tech ACC t-shirt or whatever. Like, that'd be pretty cool to give to your son or daughter if they're a big Hokie fan. So we'll have a box of that kind of stuff out. Billy Ray, maybe if you have any cool stuff that, a Hokie would love, we can give that away at the Section 5 Club event. That's at Bull and Bones. That's from 7 to 9. Again, you have to be a Section 5 Club member to be there. Check your email for our RSVP if you're a Section 5 Club member. Excited for that. Other shout-outs go to Rich Luttenberger. I saw he was chopping wood. Sent a picture of a massive pile of chopped wood, and he said, you guys should really just chop wood after a loss. It's like a picture of just a stump and a pile of firewood and an axe. He's like, this is how I get through losses. Really helps me numb the pain.
Dude, he needs to move to like Wisconsin or something. I think Rich, whenever he hangs it up with his job, move to Wisconsin, Green Bay, Southwest Virginia, somewhere. He's got to be one of the only people in he's a Northern Jersey guy, I think, right? Or Central Jersey.
He's in that Morris County vibe. I want to shout out 2 guys who I hung out with on Saturday in Charleston at the Brick. Center City Hokie.
Great guy.
I'm not gonna say his name.
Don't dox him.
No doxing. Center City Hokie and our guy Dan Saferight, who is the man. It was funny. He texted me later last night, just asking where we were out and about. And I had his number saved in my phone because we had texted before after the West Virginia game in 2021 in Morgantown. We had met at, I think the bar is called like Joe Mama's. And I had him in my contacts as Dan Sons Listener. And I was like, dude, this is the guy. So it's a shout out to Dan and Center City Hokie, both Section 5 Club members who will be there on Friday night. So good to hang out with you guys. They were rocking their customized Bob Schick and Parker Clements jerseys that they had custom ordered, which was hilarious.
Last thing that I want to leave everybody with. I appreciate everybody that listens and tunes in. It's so funny when we do this, when we lose a game like this, we like go super dramatic, but I mean, that's how I feel. Appreciate everybody tuning in and going through this roller coaster of a season with us together. Hopefully we can end it on a high note in these last 3 games. So my comment call to action is till death do us part, which is how we feel about this Virginia Tech fanhood. So till death do us part. In the comments, please put that down there. And the last thing.
I like that. That's good.
Last thing. 2 things happen this week coming up. This week. Number 1, college football playoff rankings do come out on Tuesday. Looking forward to the 12-team playoff. I think it's going to be a ton of fun. And also on the Tuesday as well, I do encourage you all to vote. I do encourage you all to be kind to one another. I do encourage all of you to just be a normal person. Just go out, vote, be nice to one another, and then we'll have college football right back on Saturday. That's all I'm saying. Just be nice to each other, love one another. ELE, everybody love everybody. So we need more of that.
What a great message. I also will say that I did vote and I did write in Josh Pate for college football commissioner. So
we need to get him on the button. We need to get him on the button. That shouldn't be a write-in. That should be an automatic bid. By the way, one of the things that I did say at the end of this game, it was pretty fun. I was like nine drinks deep, and I was like, the game was over, And I looked at Bryce and I go, dude, unfortunately, we're not going to be on the JP poll on Monday.
I don't know. The JP poll works in weird ways. Like we still show up on that thing.
I know it. But anyway, everybody enjoy the week.
We love you guys.
Clemson, and we'll win it. We'll win at Syracuse one day. It'll happen.
It's so painful.
All right, guys.